Hi everyone, today is July 9th, 2017, and this is the Duel Assessment, your podcast for Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links. My name is Green Ranger.
And I'm DeckTech.
And today is kind of a transition day. It's the end of the Pecora event, and there's going to be the Duel-a-thon starting tomorrow. And there's going to be a bunch of new events featuring the new Legendary Duelist and eventually Merrick. But this week has been highlighted by a significant injection of new cards, I guess. There were new cards brought in from the new rewards, which we'll get later on in the month. There's 2 new structure decks. There are new card trader cards, and then there are also new cards coming out tomorrow in a new box. So there is a lot going on in the game. The meta is going to shift, I think, and we are excited to talk about the new cards. DeckTech, what have you been up to?
Yeah, so like you said, wrapping up the Bakura event, I just barely got in. Kind of my main goals were to get a second Empress, which means just opening my first one, and get 300 GX gems.
EX,
so that
right?
I could, EX.
Yeah.
Did I type that wrong? Whatever they're called, gems. Yes, EX. So that I could actually get the Gardner. So I did that, and I also got kind of just during the week my 3rd Recruiter, and also a bunch of Mako cards just from the trader and stuff. So even though we're getting a pile of new cards very soon, I'm already excited to play with all these new things that I have. So by the time we get these new cards, I'm just going to be overloaded, and luckily that's going to be to my benefit because there's all those benefits to playing PvP, so it's nice to be encouraged to jump over there with the new stuff.
Yeah, this morning I sent you a link to a Orca deck I saw on Game Press, and it has a bunch of the new Mako cards in it, and I'm just happy to see Orca finally be something.
Yeah, I'll have to check that out.
Yeah.
What are you up to?
So the Pecora event, I finished that. I set off a point at 3 million for myself, so I've just been dueling him without using my normal farming deck. I think I'm at 254 EX gems, so, but I've never really wanted to get Big Shield Gardener, so I'm just going to get a Trance Archfiend, unless I get Trance Archfiend early. It's through some drop today, but it's probably not going to happen. In terms of PvP, I've been focused. I bought one of the new. I bought both of the structure decks because I just had a lot of gems, and I've been playing dragons. Mostly I've been mostly using the normal dragon called Hunter Dragon, and this opened up order to charge with Kaiba Man, Blue Eyes White Dragon, shenanigans, and I've gotten 20. I think I've gotten 20 ranked duels so far. I've just been in silver. This deck took me to silver 4 or 5, I believe. But then I've dropped back to silver 3. It seems like a lot of people are playing Kaiba Man decks in silver, and people are just playing around them. Decks like Harpy's Hunting Ground just kill me, so maybe I'll switch over or do some other type of dragon deck. The one I'm using doesn't even have Dark Flare Dragons. That's the card I really like. I'm just going to keep experimenting and getting the ranked rewards. That's what I'm focusing on.
Yeah.
Alright. So, yep. In the news, there was a Reddit tournament planned for this week, but it got canceled because of all the bugs. Should we talk about the bugs now? I guess we could.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, there's no tournament scheduled today, but we'll see if there's a future tournament. So, I guess this is the main problem that the game has right now are all the bugs. It seems like there are the bugs in PvP where they, this is the really weird one where they had a trap, that they could play traps and spells as monsters, and then they have random attack points, it seems like, that aren't divisible by 50. And then there's the old disconnect bug that people use to exploit when they're losing. And these things are pretty widespread from what we could tell.
Yeah, I think the spells and traps being set as monsters has been resolved, as far as I can tell. I haven't seen anything on it recently. And I do know that they sent some fixes out. But it seems like the disconnect and timer error issues are still happening with enough frequency that I think it's probably some sort of exploit or bug. At least the ones that happened to me, and then our friend of the show, Vegas Canuck, was talking about it as well. So you see it on Reddit. A lot of people are experiencing this. It can't all be my internet's fault.
Is it disconnect or is it time limit loss?
I think I've had a couple of each.
Yeah, I remember when I first got time limit loss. That one felt worse to me because I definitely did not take up 200 seconds or something.
Right.
Yeah. Well, Roland's gonna get fired probably. We're gonna get a new NPC.
Poor guy.
The guy with the other guy. There's a guy. Roland has green hair, and there's like a guy with brown hair who doesn't have a name, so he'll probably take over.
Maybe he'll get a name.
Yeah. In the anime, he didn't have a name. That's what it is.
The upside of it, though, of course, is that ranked PvP is live, and you want to get a lot of games in this season to get the rewards that we're going to be talking about later. So hopefully you can work past any bugs that you have and get some games in, because you need an average of like 3 or 4 a day, 3 or 4 wins a day to get the rewards that you're going to want. And if you hadn't started, we're almost a third of the way through the month, so you got to catch up.
And there are floors too, so if you got to silver, you're going to stay in silver no matter how many games you lose. So that's an incentive of keeping on playing, even if you lose. So, Temple of Kings is apparently fixed in PvE.
Kind of.
PvE, yeah, but it's still bugged in PvP. I mean, I don't know why you would use it in PvP. It's mostly a farming card, so I don't know. I guess people want to do some funky things. World Champs Shakeup. So Konami did a thorough investigation, and it was determined that a number of accounts and top finishers in the World Champ qualifiers had violated the game's terms of service. Creative Timmy, who had a dark cloud for these allegations, was banned, along with the first, second, and third place people in Group F, which was Korea/Taiwan. Star Hitman is the new guy who is going to join the ranks in North America. It must have been pretty cool to wait for a few weeks and then officially hear you're going to play in this big event in Japan.
Yeah, it's got to be a nice surprise for him. Obviously, he put in a lot of work to be even close to that area. So, congrats for getting it and for actually earning it. Now that they have done that thorough investigation, for a fact that the people who are on it used it or earned it. So that's really nice for him. It's a nice thing to wake up to.
Yep. All right. This is something that was noted on Reddit that I've never seen before on any website or any mention by anyone. There was a Redditor by the name of Storm Swampert. He discovered there's an extra duel assessment gain called the Konami bonus, and this gets you 500 duel assessment points, which is pretty good. And this happens when you end a duel with exactly 5,730 life points. And he says that this bonus is available in other games as well, other Yu-Gi-Oh games, because the number 573 is a Konami Easter egg. And it's the way you pronounce the syllables for 5, 7, and 3 in Japanese. So it sounds like Gonami, I guess. It's just a cool thing, I guess. It's not really something you shoot for every time, I guess.
Yeah, it's kind of tough to make it work, and since it's just a 500 bonus, you might as well do the low or life points on the brink instead. But it is really cool to see it out there. And, we've named ourselves after the dual assessment, so you should know all the dual assessment news.
Do you know about the Yu-Gi-Oh cards that used in Zexal? Do you know anything about them?
No, not at all.
All right, so I don't know how to play them at all, but I know they have numbers. There's a card like number 99 or something. I wonder if there's like a number 573. And
it'd just be the best card.
You win the game. It's like an Exodia, but it's just like one card. Yeah, I don't know. All right. So this is about Konami being very generous, as always. The half-year celebration is live. I wonder if we're going to get a 75% year celebration, a three-quarter celebration. But the game was officially released 6 months ago, and players are getting 1,000 gems spread over 10 days as long as you log in every day, so that's the catch. It started on the 7th or 8th, so a couple days ago. Even if you're not playing, make sure you log in so you get a lot of gems. Yep. This helps you not... Since you didn't buy the structured decks, this is pretty much the 2 structured decks right here. Unless you want to get Endymion, which...
Still hunting the Endymion. He's in the last 25 packs.
But you got every other card?
Yeah. Yes, I surely have. But I've gotten every other ultra rare and super rare for sure.
You're going to get 24 packs with nothing in before you get into the last one.
It's going to be... It's not a good time. But it's an okay time because that set's decent. So.
Alright. And as we mentioned, the new format for ranked PvP is live. You may have noticed there are a lot of bugs. And one of the bugs that are kind of funny is that the rewards are in Japanese. But, they have a picture of it, so you know what you're getting. Konami's just expanding our horizons, letting us learn Japanese. Right. And the issues have been mostly addressed, but as we mentioned before, DeckTech and Vegas Canuck have been experiencing disconnect and timeout errors. Still, you get your prizes, so every 5, at first you get one every win you get, but then up to 10, I believe, or 5, you get a reward every 5 wins. And as we mentioned, this encourages you to play PvP, and a confusing thing they didn't really mention, they probably mentioned it, but it was hard to catch, that you have to wait till the end of the season to redeem your tickets. How many tickets are we... Oh, it says right here, sorry. So you have to wait till the end of the season. I know it's kind of weird, the tickets go to your chest and you say redeem and then they're gone, so they're not going anywhere.
Yeah, you just have to wait till the end. One reason why that might be is that they don't want you to get cards that you are already going to get. And so it'd be interesting if some of these rares or normal or whatever N means cards might end up being in something that we get later this month. But because, for the super rares, it's less likely that would be the case. But I don't know.
And in a way, it prevents people from snowballing. Like, good players are a certain place, bad players are a certain place. But if the good players are going to get all the good cards anyways, they're just going to get even better, I guess. Like, it's going to create a bit of an imbalance if some people got the cards. Like, the better players got the cards beforehand.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to finally dig in to what we're most excited about, and that's all the new cards. The new cards from the ranked PvP prize pool, which we just mentioned, and that you will get access to in August. You get 2 normal cards, 2 rare, 2 super rares, 1 normal, and 1 glossy of each. Okay, so you get 6 cards, and 1 can be glossy. And,
yes.
And this is for the first 100 wins. So the exciting ones are the super rares, and you get those at 30 and 100. So it's good they have a lower one at 30. And 100's honestly not too much, as you mentioned. Getting 3 or 4 wins a day will get you there. 3. So let's go through some of the interesting ones. Shark Cruiser. 5-star fish or aqua, I don't know. You could summon without tribute if you have Legendary Ocean. So it's 1800, 2200. It's not good for 1 tribute, but it's good as a 4-star. And if it dies to an opponent's card effect, you get to special summon 2 level 4 water monsters from your deck. So, I guess the only way it could die to an opponent's card effect if it's face down, right? Because no one's going to willingly...
No, even that is not likely because I didn't put in the notes explicitly, but it does catch on to that. It has to be face up for it to activate that effect.
So the only way the effect works is they didn't read the card's text.
Yeah, or like, I don't know, I can't think of any in this game. Obviously, in the physical card game, there are cards that like destroy all your opponent's monsters, and you would be forced in a situation where you'd have to choose between destroying, their board with their really good guys or not doing that because you don't want to activate this one. I don't know if there's effects like, I don't think there's, there's like Final Destruction. There's a few.
You could use Order to Charge. Like, let's say they have like a Blue Eyes, and then you use Order to Charge, and you kind of like want to push them to put out a weak monster so you could kill their life points. I don't know if that makes sense, but like, is it an optional effect to special summon, or you're forced to do it? Let me see.
You can. It says.
Okay, so it's optional, yeah.
I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. All right. It's not that good though, right? Basically.
I mean, it's an N. It's a normal card, so you don't have too high of expectations. There's a couple other new ones in there in the card pool that you can select from for N, but none of them are very interesting, in my opinion, nor are the ones that we've already seen before, which includes the Swamp Battle Guard and the other one, the Lava Battle Guard. So,
right. Yeah. You mentioned...
That's who I'm picking.
Oh, yeah. So this is like the best N card in your opinion?
I think so.
Okay. So you get 2 of these.
Yeah.
Unless you want to get the Battle Guard set. And, yeah. Alright, Covering Fire. This is a rare trap card. During the damage step, while an opponent's monster is attacking a monster you control, target one other face-up monster you control. Your attacked monster gains attack equal to that target's attack during the damage step only. Seems pretty good, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think combat tricks are always solid. I'm not sure if damage step is telling me something that I don't know the rules well enough, but I think it saves your monster, right? If you have more attack than they do.
Yeah, you're going to make them lose their monster and a lot of life points.
Yes, yeah. That's definitely the main upside. Presumably it also saves your monster. I'm not so great on the rules, but it seems like that's a really solid card, especially if you are a newer player who doesn't have access to like all of the most powerful cards that you might otherwise use for situations like this. Like Mirror Wall would be a kind of obvious thing that this could kind of sub in for. It requires you to have 2 monsters out, which isn't always the easiest, but it definitely seems like a solid card, and it seems like the best of the new rare cards in my opinion.
I'm definitely going to get this card. The card art also has Mechanical Chaser, which is the first 1850 monster released.
Look at that. Trivia for you.
I just noticed it right there, and it's not even in the Duel Links game, but it's 1850. And there are other rare staples. Oh, yeah. So there are cards like Brachioradius, Crawling Dragon number 2, Two-Headed King Rex, Goblin Thief, Hinotama, Lost Blue Breaker, Storm, Thousand Knives. These are cards you can just get from dueling, but it's if you're missing these cards, it's another way to get them with these tickets. We're talking about 2 SR cards that you can get from the trader. The first one is called Anteater Eating Ant. So it's a really big ant. It can't be normal summoned or set. This card cannot be special summoned except by sending 2 spell or trap cards you control to the graveyard. You can destroy 1 spell or trap card your opponent controls. If you activate this effect, this card cannot attack this turn. So you can combo that with something like Storm, right? Or not Storm, Wild Tornado, right?
Yeah, exactly. All the cards that the Storm decks like to play. So the Wild Tornado, the Smoke Grenade, the what's it called? The equip that when it dies, the thing that's equipped with it dies. Meteor Crush or something.
Oh, Big Bang Shot.
There you go, Big Bang Shot. Thank you. So any of those types of things. So there's some decent. There's also ones that are less sending to. Okay, so it's actually a little bit different because this is the same thing as Card Breaker, where it had that same issue. It's sending to, not destroying to. So
wait, what's
it works.
Oh,
some cards only trigger when they're destroyed.
So Big Bang Shot wouldn't work.
I think actually Big Bang Shot's the one that does work. I think Wild Tornado does not work.
So so the card doesn't explode; it just goes into the graveyard, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But still, I mean, the reason why I put it on the list, why I think it's pretty cool, is that any sort of special summon is a nice little cheat. The cost of this one, obviously, is a little bit trickier with 2 spells or traps, but as we've just been discussing, there's a few spells and traps that you don't mind or even want to remove like that to the graveyard. So it's kind of cool. Probably not going to be the biggest impact on the meta or even any impact on the meta, but it was just enough to kind of pique my interest a little bit. It's probably not going to be the card that too many of us choose.
Yeah, there's too many. I mean, it's a good thing that they're bringing out different options to remove the back row. At least it seems like it's happening more and more. So they know that everyone's playing Mirror Wall and Enemy Controller. So another option is Behemoth, the King of All Animals. 7 stars, 2,700 attack, 1,500 defense. This card can be normal summoned or set with 1 tribute. In that case, the original attack of this monster becomes 2,000. When this card is tribute summoned, you can return from your graveyard to the owner's hand a number of beast-type monsters equal to the number of tributed monsters. So you would get 2, in that case, 2 of them back.
Well, 1 or 2, depending on how you summon him.
Not that good. Unless beasts become a thing, which they're not.
Right. This is another one that it's kind of the more interesting of the new options. There's a couple other new options in the super rare bracket as well, but they're also underpowered, I guess I could say, and they're also not as exciting. But this one's kind of cool. I like the versatility that you could play it either way, and I like that it gives you some card advantage. Unfortunately, like you said, neither version, the 2 tribute or the 1 tribute, is like that powerful.
Yeah.
And there's not a ton of beast synergy, so I probably wouldn't pick this guy either, but I think he was worth noting. He gets it all.
You skipped over a Perfect Machine King. Oh, man.
Yeah, I don't get why Reddit's all in love with this guy.
It's just like a lore thing, I think.
Oh, okay. Well, he's in there too.
Yeah.
Looks kind of like Voltron.
Yeah, okay, cool. And of course, you could get any of a bunch of the other legendary duelist super rares, and this is probably what you're going to get because people typically don't have a full set of everything. So cards like Enemy Controller, Champion's Vigilance, Gravekeeper's Recruiter / Priestess, Chief, Metalmorph. Chief. Rare Metalmorph, think really good SRs. This is probably where we're going to get, right? Yeah,
that's probably what almost everyone's going to get. The new cards are interesting because they're new, but they're not as powerful as these cards.
And people have noted that this is the time, after this month, everyone's going to have 3 enemy controllers. And this applies to me as well, because Kaiba never gave me one. So this is the time that I would get my third. Unless I decide 2 is enough and I go for, like, Champion's Vigilance or something, but that's probably not going to happen.
Right.
Alright. Now we're going to talk about the new structured decks. Sorcerer's Alliance, which sounds like the Magician's Alliance, and Draconic Force. Structured decks are it's like buying the structured decks, the starter decks in the card game. You know what you're going to get, you know how many of them you're going to get. So it's a one-time purchase, and they're styled as alternate starter decks for Yugi and Kaiba. So there's like the spellcasters, and then there's the dragons. Each one can be purchased once by gems for 500, and then by real money purchases as many as you want for $4. Each deck is 20 cards, and there are new cards. I think they're all new cards in each. No, there's like a couple of repeats. Yeah.
Yeah, there's some old cards in them, but about, I don't know, half of each deck. Yeah, maybe 3/4 of each deck is kind of new cards. The new cards are obviously the exciting part of each of the new decks.
Yeah. The dragon one seems better at the moment because it has more synergy with cards. I noted that I think all of the dragon cards are either dark or light. So they have, like a filler guy like Komori Dragon, which is dark. Hunter Dragon is the 1700 guy that I really like. He's dark.
I think the Exploder's Earth, but other than that, I think you're right.
Exploder Dragon is pretty much a better Yomi ship, so it's a good card to get. Because you don't take damage when it hits something. The Grand Dragon of Nuit is light, and then the SR, Felgrand is light as well. So they all work with Dark Flare. So you could do a lot of tricky things with deck building in terms of dragons, because there's so many options available. And then there's the trap card Tyrant Wing. Tyrant Wing's more of an equip card, but I did get defeated by it once. So it might be a good idea to have one of those and try it out. The Sorcerer one. Okay, so everyone's been clamoring that we've only gotten one Neo the Magic Swordsman. I think it was a promotion. Like, we got it through a promotion, I think. And now we actually we have 4 of them now, I guess, or 3. We get the highest one tribute monster in Trance the Magic Swordsman. He has 2600, but 200 defense, so that's something to consider. And he's stronger than Dark Magician, but he has none of the upside, none of the support that Dark Magician has.
Right.
And then there are other good cards like Magical Undertaker and Man with Wajat. Why are these cards pretty good?
Well, the Magical Undertaker is just a cool effect that seems like it would work really well in Gravekeepers if you find some room for it. And so let's see, you can target one and special summon it. So
is it better than Recruiter? No, Recruiter adds it to your hand, right?
It adds it to your hand from your deck, right? I just barely finished building my Gravekeeper, so I'm not super familiar with...
Recruiter adds it to your hand, so this one actually special summons it. So you could get your... what's the guy?
But it has to be in your graveyard first. And it has to be level 4 or lower.
So this you could abuse your Recruiter to get more cards. Yeah,
exactly. This is in the place in previous, metas. The Gravekeepers used to run things like Rebirth and
Half Shot.
Yeah, and this is kind of can fill that role as well. There are other spellcasters that you might want to special summon. I mean, obviously, there's just the tempo plays from your Neo and stuff. So there's definitely a lot of value there outside of just the Gravekeepers, but it seems like they are the ones who would be most excited about maybe using that card.
It seems like it could replace Fiend Jester, because it's going to get something on the board, and then you could play the Oracle next turn for sure, and use its ability. Because you're going to have to tribute one Gravekeeper and make them reduce their attack by 2,000.
Yeah, it's possible. The Fiend Jester lets you do a double summon, though.
Yeah.
On that turn. So Fiend Jester is really good as well. Maybe the way that it would see the most play is kind of as a replacement for any of those cards, but just, depending on what you, the player, are missing, It can have any of those kind of various slots, and it just slots in for anyone who doesn't have a complete collection.
Yeah. And then a man with Wajat.
Right. So you told me what a Wajat is.
Yeah.
Something to do with the eyes, which you can see he has eyes in the picture. I'm looking at him right now. He's got eyes on his hands and on his forehead. So he's all up on the Millennium Puzzle, or all the items.
Yep.
When you normal summon this card, during each of your standby phases, select one card in your opponent's side of the field, pick it up, look at it, and then return it to its original position. It's a 1600, 4-star. So it's strong enough that you can kind of just play it especially if you're running Power of the Dark. They suggest for these. And he's got decent stats, so he might live. And then you've just got this big upside of getting a little bit of information every turn. So it's not going to break the game in any sense. You probably won't run it once you have a more complete collection. And you might not even run Power of the Dark at all once you have a more complete collection. But this is definitely a good card for newer players, just so long as they are able to kind of understand and make the use of that additional information that they can get every turn.
Yeah, and this goes into the thing of making the really good traps and spells less good. It's a really budget way of doing it because they're not destroying anything, but I guess a thing that a lot of new players do is they just attack every turn without thinking, and this kind of helps them not do that. Helps them plan, I guess.
Yeah, it's actually funny. If we're talking about new player attitudes and stuff, I've been listening to a game design podcast by one of the main designers of Magic the Gathering, which is, of course, a very famous TCG that's been around forever. And he notes that when they kind of saw new players, there's two extremes. There's one set of new players that would attack every turn without thinking, and then there's one set of new players that doesn't like to attack if there's any uncertainty. And so setting a trap is bad for either type of new player, I guess, because, like you said, the ones who like to just go ham, they will be attacking into whatever trap without really considering the repercussions of doing that. And then the other new players who are afraid of it will kind of just do nothing for the rest of the game until they lose. And neither one is good for the game. Neither one is good for teaching them how to play. And so maybe this helps either way. But it's also, a decent card for not so new players who just don't have full collections. So I like it. I'm glad that it's in there. It's a very good card for something like this, which is themed as a replacement starter deck just because when we get new characters, we don't really get starter decks. We kind of just get one or two cards with the new character and then a bunch of garbage. So it's nice.
Yep. Yeah, speaking of garbage, we're gonna get Merrick's cards, and a lot of them are just not good.
Yeah, some Merrick garbage.
Like Dralago, that card sucks. Another wave of new trader cards. Oh yeah, so there's gonna be these cards are already in this set in the huge pool of trader cards, and one of them is a field. SR field called the Mausoleum of the Emperor, and it basically is 3-star demotion, but it could be used for anyone. It's worse than the skill because it also goes both ways. Fields, your opponent can use them, and you can use them as well. What do you think about this card?
Yeah, so in addition to it being worse because your opponent can use it, it's also, of course, inherently worse because you have to draw it. As opposed to a skill, you can just use the skill. And it's also worse because you have to pay the life payment for each tribute that you do, or for each summon that you do that would be a tribute, I should say. And so instead of doing a 3-star demotion, double summon, play 2 of my guys, win the game, you would have to have some life gain in there to make that work, because otherwise you'd be paying 4,000 life. So at the very least, it costs twice as much life, but it's also might be prohibitively expensive. It could see some play, especially with the people who want kind of to have a replacement 3-star demotion, but I don't think it's going to be as good. That deck would probably look like how Toon decks look now, where you have the one field spell that the deck's built around, and then you have a couple searchers, and maybe you use the restart skill, and it seems like that might be decent. It seems like it's doable. I mean, it works for the Toons. The upside of Mausoleum as compared to the Toon decks is that it doesn't, you can run more than one is one upside, and then another upside is that if they kill the Mausoleum, it doesn't destroy your whole board. So, it could work, but the upside of Toons is that if they don't destroy the Toon Kingdom, then they just win the game. So this one does not have as much power in that sense. So to me, it kind of looks like it would encourage play, which would be essentially a worse version of current 3-star demotion and a worse version of the current Toons. A little bit unsure about that Toon one, because we'll see how much of a upside downside it is to avoid your whole board dying when the field dies. So I think it might see some play. I've already seen some people testing it out.
And I just like having more fields. It's something I like. Next card's Magna Slash Dragon. It's a rare 6-star 2400 attack, which is pretty good. You can send one face-up continuous spell you control to the graveyard and destroy one spell or trap your opponent controls. Seems okay.
Yeah. This is another one that might see play. It's just a rare, though, so I'm buying them up just in case, because rares are really cheap. And there's a few good continuous Magic cards that you'd like to tribute. The one that kind of came to my mind first was 7, which when it dies, you just gain 700 life. And if you get 3, then you draw 3 cards and also get the life. But in a lot of decks, you're kind of just using it. In the few decks that do use it, you're usually not expecting it to gain you all that, or to get you the cards. You're doing it just for the life gain and just to have something to tribute to cards like this or to Storm and stuff. So.
Isn't this card automatically better than Luster Dragon 2? Like, it's a wind type, I know, but it's got the same attack and 6 stars.
Yeah, sounds better.
And you can get, like, Kidmodo or whatever and just get it out right away.
Yeah.
Seems good. Hazy Flame Sphinx. This card is apparently bugged. It's a Beast Warrior, 1900 attack, 1 tribute. Your opponent cannot target this card with card effects. You can declare 1 card type and send that top card of your deck to the graveyard. Then if it was... Oh, so you have to guess the right type. And then if you guess it right, you can special summon a fire monster from your hand or your graveyard. You can only use it once per turn.
That's a little bit of flavor, I think, because Sphinx in mythology asks you riddles, I guess, so it's kind of like a riddle.
That's cool. That's
cool.
Yeah. And I don't know if this works with Kickfire. It doesn't, right? Because they have to be destroyed from the board, I believe. Yeah, it doesn't work with Kickfire.
Right.
Yeah. But
So
if you have like a deck with mostly monsters, you can probably guess it right.
yeah, I think that's presumably how you would use it, but I'm not excited for that use. I don't think it's worth it. I mean, it's got kind of weird stats for, it's a 1 tribute with 1919. I don't know what's up with that. It's cool that it doesn't, it has this like separate skill unlike any other card in the game, and it kind of seems like the type of skill that encourages some sort of combo or strong synergy deck. I'm just not seeing the deck off the top of my head, and it doesn't seem like it would be the most powerful deck anyway.
Yeah. Next card, the last card, is Psychokinesis. If you control a psychic monster, target one card on the field, destroy it. If you do, take 1,000 damage. So it's removal. It's any card, yeah.
Any card, face up, face down, monster, spell, trap. So it's a super powerful card. Obviously, there's a real downside of 1,000 life in our version of the game. That's a lot. But this might just be enough to kind of push psychics into being something, relevant. So I guess the question is like, how would you build them? Are you going to build them with Teya's ability to just kind of try to use all the powerful effects on one turn? Or do you, with the, I forget what it's called, Holy Guard, I think, so that you don't have to pay the life? Or do you play them in some sort of deck where you gain a bunch of life so that you can afford to pay some life as resources for these powerful effects? I don't know, but I think we're now in the area where people will want to start playing them. I know that some people have already started playing them, but not like a ton of people, and they haven't played them very much. So
yeah, and all the legendary duelists we have no affiliation with Psychic, because Psychic is a card type they brought in way later. It didn't exist back then. And also, are most Psychic types dark, do you know, or are they just random attributes?
I don't know if they're mostly dark. I do know that a moderate amount of them are earth and a couple are wind, because I almost put them in my Desert Twister list for a little bit. I don't think they're, I mean, I know they're not all dark, but I don't think they're mostly dark either.
Yeah. It's probably because they oversaturated, like, the dark attribute. It's always been one of the strongest, so I guess Psychics had to go somewhere else.
Yeah. It's also, their coloring is green.
Yeah,
so it kind of makes sense for them to be in the wind, which is a little bit weird, but I don't know.
Psychic waves kind of travel through the air.
There you go.
Alright, tomorrow there's going to be a new mini box. So these are the 60 or... Is it 80 or 60? Depends, right? It depends on the box.
Well, let's take a look at the ones we have right now. I don't know offhand.
80. Okay, it's 80. It's going to be the Dawn of Destiny, and this was the one that was leaked with the card on the sale banner. And yeah, this is a Sacred Phoenix of Nephis, yeah. And we're going to probably get 500 gems for this too, right? Like we always get before a box. Yeah. So we had different reactions to this set when we first saw them, but we did identify a lot of really powerful cards that we should chase for. Some of the themes that this deck box goes through are zombies, plants, and fire types, I think. So those are some of the things that it supports.
Yeah.
Tribute to the Doomed. This is one of the marquee cards that you would know from the TCG or just the game as being one of the best cards. You discard a card and you destroy a monster on the field. So that's all it does. You could say it compares to Order to Charge, but it doesn't require the vanilla monster. And there are also tricks you could do by discarding things and abusing that ability.
Yeah. I think Kid Moto discards are really cool. There's those few cards from the Graveyard Power deck that have some value when they're discarded as well. There's some cards that come back when they're discarded. We have a few things that allow you to bring things back from the graveyard. So there's some cool tricks there, and like you said, it's just a really strong removal.
It helps Necrofear too. I've been seeing a lot of Necrofear, and this kind of lets you dump a guy into the graveyard.
Yeah, it seems like between the fact that we finally gotten a second one, and then we got Doomdog a little while ago, and then now a little bit more graveyard help, it seems like it's time for Necrofear to finally come.
Yep. Magical Exemplar. It is, let's see. It's a spellcaster, 1700 attack. Each time a spell card is activated, place 2 counters on this card. Once per turn, you can remove any number of spell counters from the card, and you can special summon a spellcaster from your hand or graveyard with the level equal to the number of counters you removed. Do you think the counter ability is going to be used, or is it just a good attack for Power of the Dark?
Well, I don't think it's going to see much play outside of Power of the Dark, especially since it wants you to play more spellcasters, so it kind of, by its nature, is building towards a spellcaster deck. But I do think it's just all upside. You know, if you happen to have this, then it's better than the Neo, which we were already excited about getting more copies of. So I think it's a very solid card. Most likely just going to see play for newer players, but it might see some play outside of that. You have to play at least 2 spells to really get any value out of it. 2 isn't hard, but anything more than that's pretty tough. And 2, while this is on the field, could be pretty hard. So I don't think the spell counter ability is going to get a ton of play. I don't think this card is going to see a ton of play, but I do think it will see some play for sure, especially in the lower ranks, where it's going to just be a really good card.
It's kind of like Master of Barriers. They kind of have an ability that you won't really use, but they have the same stats, I guess.
Yeah.
Molten Destruction. Oh wait, Heavy Knight of Flame. This card is pretty exciting. We've seen it in Bakura. He kind of just plays it when he's around Duel World. It's an 1800 attack zombie. It's also a Gemini monster. It's a fire type, fire attribute. This card is... Okay, so that's a normal Gemini thing where it's a normal monster and then you resummon him for the Gemini effect. At the start of the damage step, if this card attacked the special summoned monster, you can banish that monster. So he won't even destroy himself. If he's going against someone that's strong, like let's say he's fighting a Necrofear, he's not even going to die. He's just going to remove the Necrofear from the board.
Which also prevents its ability from activating. What?
This card's OP.
Yeah, I guess there's a little bit more upside to that ability than I had initially considered, because you're right, it does kind of even prevent the chance for the combat. The part that interested me the most is that it was zombie, Gemini, fire, which these are all things that have gotten some support recently. And so you have a very decent, 1800 4-star is very good in this game. And you get these 3 archetypes which have gotten some support recently in it. So I think this card will probably make its way into a decent amount of decks. Whether or not those decks end up becoming, any sort of meta shaping is to be seen still, but there's definitely some value there. And if you can get the effect off, then you get some nice pulls of killing Necrofears and
Kaiba Man, Blue Eyes. That works.
Well, why would you kill Kaiba Man? They wouldn't leave.
No, the Blue Eyes that comes from Kaiba Man. Because you special summon that, right?
Yes, yeah.
This guy's the strongest zombie. Well, ignoring the Skull Conductor who destroys himself, this is the strongest 4-star zombie.
Yeah.
Look Okay, this card's really good. But of course you have to use the Gemini trick, so that's the only thing holding it back, really.
Right.
Molten Destruction. It's a field that gives all fire attributes 500 attack, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they lose 400 defense.
Yeah, there's a lot of these cards. This came out in Magic Ruler, I believe. And then there's cards like Mystic Plasma Zone, Yumirika, Rising Air Current, all the ones that do different attributes, but this one's fire. And 500 attack is a lot for a field right now. They're pushing fire, it seems. Yeah,
and, like we said, some decent beaters in fire from the last set and now in this one. So there's definitely something there that could be used. The downside, of course, is that it doesn't start on the field like the other beatdown field spell cards do. So it might lose too much value from that downside that you have to find it first to get the benefit. If you're running a beatdown deck, you're probably not going to run all those cards that help you find the various field spells, and you're also probably going to dislike if you have dead draws where you draw it too late or you already have one or something. So I don't know if this will end up making the cut in those decks, but it seems like it's got a decent shot.
It's really strong. And fire types have no defense anyways, so it's only upside, I guess.
Right, yeah, you don't really care. If your guys are flipped to defense, you're losing them anyway, so.
Yeah. Super Rush Headlong, another really good card. It's a quick play. Target one face-up monster you control and declare one attribute. If that target battles an opponent's monster with that selected attribute, you destroy that monster at the start of the damage step. So it's one of those things, again, like we mentioned with the Heavy Knight of Flame, that it just destroys it without taking damage that turn. So it destroys anything, really. This is better. This is better than Order to Charge, right?
Well, the way that it would be better, I guess, that you don't have to run normal guys. But if their thing is face down, do you get a chance to activate after it's flipped face up and you see what attribute it is?
I think that's only if you guess it right. Yeah. That's the issue, yeah.
Yeah. Which I guess doesn't compare it to Order to Charge because you have to pick a face-up guy for Order to Charge, right? But anyway.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a really solid card. The other downside as compared to Order to Charge is that it has to be in combat. So Order to Charge has a lot of value in that you can do it to kind of counter other cards, like your opponent's Order to Charge or enemy controller or a Relinquished if it's eating it or something. And so this is, I would say, more of a supplement to than a replacement of Order to Charge. If you are running a deck that wants to run a bunch of vanilla monsters anyway, then Order to Charge is probably still better. But if you don't want to run a bunch of vanilla monsters, or you don't have a full play set of Order to Charge, or for whatever other reason, this is a really good replacement.
And this card has that pig. You see that pig in the picture? The little one?
Yeah.
That's the Rush Recklessly pig. Do you know that card?
No.
It's just like a quick place, gain 700 attack.
Oh.
And this is like a continuation of that, I guess. Because it's a quick play, and then there's like a pig in the picture, too.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah. Rare card called Hand of Nephis. This helps out with the Phoenix. You contribute this card and one other monster, special summon the Sacred Phoenix of Nephis from your hand or deck. I guess it gets the Nephis out early, but like we mentioned before, when we looked at the card last week, it's not really a card that's worth playing, really.
Yeah, I think the only reason why you might consider playing it is because of this card, Hand of Nephis, but I don't think it's good enough to warrant it, but that would be the reason why you would.
Yeah. Next one is Des Wombat 1600 attack beast. Any damage to you that comes from a card effect becomes 0. It's pretty obvious why this exists, right?
Yeah, I mean it's an anti-Taya burn thing. I'm wondering if this helps counter like the cost of doing your psychics. Now that I think about it, are costs considered damage in this game?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Let me look at this card real fast.
Pull up the errata thing.
It prevents effect damage, so like burning land.
Yeah.
That might be obvious. This card can ruin burn decks. Okay, yeah. It doesn't say anything about costs, so I assume it doesn't.
That's going to be something that I'm going to try out when it comes. We'll see. We need a rules expert on call.
Yeah. Let's see, errata. Okay, so this card originally had a text called, "As long as this card remains face up on the field, any damage by a card effect to the controller of this card becomes 0. That changed to any damage you take from a card effect becomes 0.
Interesting.
Oh, wait, no. Wait a minute. Is the card in Duel Links the incorrect one? Yeah, it is. Oh, no. Oh, no, it's the fixed one. Sorry.
It's all good.
It's the fixed one. Okay.
We'll see when it comes. Yeah.
We'll see. You're going to get a bunch of them, and you're going to be happy you get an SR. Red Dragon Ninja. What's this card do? It's rare. 2400 attack. 6 stars. When this card is summoned, you can banish one ninja or one ninjutsu art card from your graveyard to target one set card your opponent controls. Reveal the set card and then return it to either the top or the bottom of the deck. That's pretty good. Your opponent cannot activate the targeted card in response to this activation. Oh. You can use the red ninja effect every once per turn. So this is really good, but the catch is you need a card with the name Ninja or Ninjutsu art.
Yeah, and unfortunately there aren't too many of those, and they're not great. So
isn't there a guy who's at 300 attack? Or like the Crimson Ninja or
yeah,
Armed Ninja?
Yeah, and I have like 10 million of them because you keep getting them from the standard duelist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It kind of has the same ability.
Yeah, it's also something to do with spells and traps. I don't.
Oh, because ninjas bypass traps.
Yeah, there you go.
Man, these cards are more flavorful than I give them credit for. Good Goblin Housekeeping. What does this card do? Draw cards equal to the number of Good Goblin Housekeeping cards you have in your graveyard plus 1. Then select one card from your hand and return it to the bottom of your deck. I guess it could play in farming, I guess.
That's what I'm thinking. I think that it is really good card advantage and card selection, but that it's a little bit too slow for the normal game. But in farming, you're trying to get through your whole deck anyway, and you usually want your specific farming cards to be at the very bottom, so that you have all of your stall and your cards that you can throw away if your hand is full during the match. So I think this card is perfect for farming decks, and it might see play as a replacement for Jar of Greed. No, what's it called? The trap one.
Yeah.
Jar of Greed.
Jar of Greed's weird. It's just a card to exist. Because you draw a card and it's a card. So it's like...
Right. The whole point of Jar of Greed is to reduce your deck size by 1, essentially. And to get the trap activation dual assessment score.
Right.
So I think that this is a great card for farming, and it might replace that.
The next card is Anti-Magic Prism. Activate it when your opponent activates a quick play. Select one card on the field and destroy it. So this works with the enemy controller. By the end of the month, everyone's going to have 3, we assume. So this works against the enemy controller. And also any other quick play that we... Like the Super Rush Headlong or Order to Charge.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's just a rare. Yeah, it's just a rare. Vampire Baby, we mentioned this card. When it destroys a monster, you take control of the monster, basically.
Yeah.
Powerful effect, but it's really weak. Yeah. And then there are some Naturia cards, which are plant cards. Naturia Hydrangea, 1900 attack, 1 tribute. If the effect of a Naturia monster you control was activated during this turn, you can special summon this card from your hand. Pretty good?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's super strong. I'm reading it to allow you to special summon on their turn, which might not be accurate. So if that is not the case, then it is a lot weaker, because the two really easy activations that I was seeing are Naturia Guardian and Naturia Strawberry, which both almost always activate on your opponent's turn. But those 3 cards, the Hydrangea, the Guardian, and the Strawberry, are all decent beatdown cards. And when you start adding in free 1900 attacker, that's just a huge tempo swing. We've gotten a lot of support effects from the Land of the Titans, and there's a couple more support cards in this set that we're going to get to in a sec. So I think that it might be time for Naturia to shine.
Another one's the Naturia Pumpkin. When this card's normal summoned, if your opponent controls a monster, you can special summon a Naturia monster from your hand.
Boom! Yeah. This is another huge tempo swing card. You play this, its effect activates, so you get the Pumpkin and whatever other nature you're summoning, and then also the Hydrangea for an effect activating. So that gives you a full board right off the bat, and then there's some one-turn kill potential just from the fact that you have a full board of, let's see, 3,000, 4,900 attack probably. And then you can also add some of these support cards. There's like Raging Mad Plants, I think, from the last set.
Right, yeah.
Gives every one of your plants a boost. So there's a lot of explosive tempo play potential here. Which is, like I said, another reason why I'm excited for the Naturia.
And then there's 3 more support normal cards that come in this set. Landoises, Luminous Moss, Barkian's Bark, Extero's Fang. They all kind of protect the plant cards.
Yeah.
Prevents the effects from happening. Traps. Yeah.
Yep, just enough to kind of... You see that in almost every deck, there's a little bit of interaction with back row or preventing tricks or counterplays and stuff like that. You really need at least a little bit of that, because there's just so many powerful back row effects, like Mirror Wall and Windstorm and Enemy Controller and stuff. All of those cards, you need to have some way to interact with them. So a little bit of protection from them is good. Even if you're in a tempo deck and you don't really want to not be beating face, you still need a little bit of that counterplay.
Yeah. And the good thing about Naturia is that they're all normal, so they're all pretty easy to get if you keep getting these packs.
Yeah, that's true.
So yeah, we're going to include the link with the cards and the video. You didn't like the video, right?
I didn't finish watching it, but I started watching it and I was just like immediately embarrassed by the music in it. It's just really highlighting that we're playing a children's card game.
Yeah. Oh man. Alright, so we're going to move on to the last part of the show today, and that's the Duel School, the 4-for-8 deck. Let's talk about the deck.
Yeah, so this week we got a listener submission, or maybe not listener, but at least follower on Twitter, because he submitted it to us there. His name is Stephen Bostick. He tweeted the show about it, and his deck is a rock control deck. It uses the Guardian statues and Attack the Moon as kind of probably what I would assume is the inspiration for the deck. And then it kind of has a bunch of support cards working around those. So just to give a quick rundown, we'll put the list in the notes, but we'll also just go through it here. 2 Sphere Kuriboh, 3 Guardian Statue, 3 Grave Ojia, 1 Labyrinth Wall, 3 Beta the Magnet Warrior, 1 Shard of Greed, 2 Attack the Moon, 1 Mirror Wall, 3 Security Orb, and 1 Windstorm of Edequa. So he tweeted us and asked for a deck check. So I thought, it'd be fun to do kind of a listener or Twitter friend review. So I tried out the deck. Obviously, since it's based around Moon World and the Guardian statue, it's similar to something that I had previously tried. I was doing it in the Clown Control shell, but he's focusing on the Rock synergy. One very interesting point is that he chose to use Duel Standby as his skill instead of what's probably the more standard of Mind Scan. He used the Mind Scan in the Clown Control, and I used it in my version because it prevents you from killing those few traps that you have a really big downside if you kill. So the Security Orb and the Wild Tornado are the first two that come to mind. And you can kind of just leave them on the field or lock them down if you happen to run Sergeant Electro in your version, instead of clearing them with Attack the Moon and losing your advantage there. But the Duel Standby skill does a good job of, I mentioned before when I played my version, the deck tends to run pretty low on cards. You run out of cards quickly because you need to use 1 or 2 cards every turn to kind of combo out some interactions. So the Guardian, of course, has really weak stats, but it has the advantage that you can use its effect every turn. So the end result of that is that you need to run a stall card. You need to play a stall card pretty much every turn so that they can't attack into it and kill it. And so you end up getting a little bit low on cards. With Duel Standby, you get that extra card, but on top of that, your opponent thinks you're running Taya Burn. So they drop everything in their back row, and so when you play Attack the Moon, you have more targets to hit. And so in the early Silver, I think this deck was best for me, because in Bronze there weren't very many people running back row cards, and those few that were played were not as good of targets. So they tended to be like equip cards that were falling off the monsters anyway when I bounced the monster, or just kind of weaker cards, or rear Yokus, a few of those. But then in lower Bronze, people started playing the back row cards that you really worry about, like the mirror walls. But then higher than that, and I didn't play enough to get higher than that, but I just know from previous experience, higher than that, people run things like Wild Tornadoes and more Security Orbs. So once you get higher than that very low Silver, then you kind of go too far in the other direction where destroying things in the back row gets dangerous again. You kind of want that Mind Scan. But I really did like the idea of running the Duel Standby. At least in that little niche area, it seems like it's really good. And I also just kind of like the clever usage there of addressing the deck's weakness. And since you're bouncing a monster every turn and hopefully destroying their back row, you don't really care too much that you gave them those extra cards. So I like that aspect of it. I think that the upside of the Clown Control is that you have more things that kind of work towards that common goal, and you can more easily control their board from that. So instead of just relying entirely on bouncing something every turn with the statue, you also have, of course, the clowns that can kill something. So in this one, you're relying really heavily on the statues, and that if you lose your statue for any reason, you kind of just lose the game. I also don't think that the Grave Ojia is kind of necessary. It seems like his plan here is to use it as burn, but you have it does 300 each flip with the Guardian. You only get one activation. When you flip it back down, it, I guess, no longer sees that it's a rock type, so it doesn't count. So you get 300 from the flip up. And it's not nothing. Every once in a while, it ends up being enough to kind of push you over and get those last attacks in. But I don't think it's worth a slot, because usually I only get, 3 to 600 damage, and then I have a 1600 attack guy who doesn't have any other value on top of that 3 to 600 damage. And since I'm not a burn deck, I don't really care about the 3 to 600 damage too frequently. Beta the Magnet Warrior is probably in there just because he's the strongest kind of 4-star rock that you can play at any time. But it's kind of the same idea, where I don't think he's pushing forward the main strength of the deck as much as you'd want. And Labyrinth Wall is kind of just terrible. One tributes are a little bit hard to run in this game if you don't have like a specific plan to get them out. And also, this one has 0 attack, so if they use an enemy controller on you, you just get wasted. The game plan of waiting them out kind of gives them more chances to get that enemy controller as well. So I would cut that as my other suggestions. So kind of in summation, I would say I would switch the emphasis from rocks to kind of flipping and defensive position and position changing, I guess, which is more the clown control style. I like the innovation of running the dual standby, and I think there's some decent synergy there with this whole archetype of Attack the Moon, Guardian stuff. So with the clown controls, you're of course running the 3, I think it's Dream Clown, the one that kills something when it gets flipped. You're going to want to run the Curse of Anubis, I think, the one that flips things sideways. And you already have kind of the security orbs and windstorms, so and the Kuribos to stall out the other ways to protect your guys. So I think that you can kind of slot in some stuff pretty easily, and you'd be changing probably around, 7 or 8 cards, which is a decent amount for a 20-card deck, but I do think that you still get to keep the soul and the main interaction of the deck. So you're not changing too much.
Soul of the deck. I guess it kind of goes into the card having one game plan instead of doing too much, especially in the speed duel format. That's why you need to do that, right?
Yeah, and the 300 damage, the Ojia, is a good idea, but I just don't think it's enough. And it's a good idea because you're doing chip damage anyway. When you play the clown control, you're just flipping your guy up and attacking for like 800. And basically, the way that deck works is that you just kind of stall them out for really just 3 to 5 turns while you're killing or bouncing stuff and using your stall cards. And all of that while you're just hitting in with these little guys who aren't very big threats on their own. But I think that having a little bit more of, you need the dual effect of it being both the control card and dealing a little bit of chip damage, whereas the Ojia is just doing that chip damage, and I don't think that's enough when the deck already kind of struggles with running out of those resources before you're done with the stall.
There you go. That's some professional deck tech right there.
Some professional deck tech. Hopefully that helps, Steven. Thanks for tweeting us. If anyone else kind of wants our thoughts on their decks, please feel free to at us on Twitter to send it to the emails and any of those other methods that we always talk about at the end. You want to give them the whole spiel?
Yep. First, I'll give out a shout out. I'll give a shout out to Ferris Biscuit, who ran a tournament yesterday I participated in Hearthstone. He gave us a shout out of this podcast, so thanks to him and for running the tournament. So I'm going to wrap up today. Find our podcast on iTunes or any other podcast searching things and apps. Check out our podcast and more at our website at theduelassessment.wordpress.com. We'll link our YouTube channel where you could see these full podcasts and listen to them on YouTube. Help support us at Patreon at patreon.com/duel_assessment. Send us an email with any questions at theduelassessment@gmail.com. And also our Twitter pages at duel_assessment, me at Green Ranger HS, and DeckTech at HS DeckTech.
That's right. See you guys next time.
Alright, see you guys.